Hello, litigators and opinionators. Court is now in session. So I was looking around in the Facebook streets and social media streets, and I found this blogger who actually did the extra work to look to find out the flight information for at least Shanquella, Dejanay, and the return flight for Elise. Some of the information was kind of annoying because he didn't clarify certain things, but at least because some people kept asking, well, what time do you guys know what time Shanquella got there and the others got there? Well, he didn't look up everybody's information, but he did at least look up Shanquella's and Dejanay's. And so he at least was able to gather that Shanquella's flight was October 28th and that she departed from North Carolina at 5:30 a.m. And then when she arrived to Dallas, she departed from Dallas at 8:30 a.m. And that's the information we got. But then if you look at the flight information online, it takes at least 2 hours from Dallas, they have here. I don't know if she flew from Dallas, but y'all let me know in the chat. It takes 2 hours from Texas or Dallas to fly to Cabo. That's what it has here. But y'all let me know. So if we could guesstimate, that she would have arrived there if she flew from Dallas at about 10:30. She would have been in Cabo. Dejanay is alleged to have had a flight at 8:30 October 28th. And she arrived to Dallas. And we'd have to guesstimate because, again, I'll play it for you guys, but I feel like the guy didn't clarify certain things. So we're going to have to guesstimate on some things based upon the information that is provided. But that Dejanay left at 8:30 a.m. So she was on a separate flight from Shanquella, of course. And she would have arrived at Dallas, if you're calculating that, I would say at approximately, that would be 10:30 a.m. Because 6:37, it would be 3 hours. It would be 3 hours from North Carolina to Dallas. So that would be 11:30 a.m. And then she would have flew from Dallas probably at that time. So she would have came a little later, I would say, than Shanquella. So let's take a look at this recording, y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think. It got kind of irritating because the guy didn't go into more detail. But hey, we have a little bits and pieces of information because people wanted to know some of the flight information. And one of these bloggers out here did the legwork for us so we can at least hear some of the details that he has and see what we can work with to do our own analysis.
Uh-huh. Okay. What is your first name?
SHANQUELLA ROBINSON. All right. Can you please find out?
Okay. I have Robinson.
Okay.
What do you need to know?
Like, what was her flight information?
28. From Raleigh to Dallas, and Dallas to SJD.
And what was the times? From Raleigh to Dallas to SJD?
From Raleigh, 5:30 a.m. And from Dallas, 8:30 a.m. I only can see the ticket information. I cannot see the flight information. Okay. Like the length of the flight or anything else. I can tell you that she departed from Raleigh 5:30 a.m. to Dallas, and then she departed from Dallas 8:30 a.m. Dallas time to San Jose del Cabo.
DAEJHANAE. Last name is Jackson.
Okay.
Same dates and all that.
That one does come up.
All right.
I can give you the ticket number.
Okay.
0012.
Uh-huh.
So 0012448 011 880.
And can you give me, like, what was that? Was that Raleigh too?
Yes, flight drone.
Was it the same flight as Shanquella? Same exact flight, 5:30 a.m. all day?
No, her flight was departed at 8:30.
8:30 a.m.
Yes.
To Dallas.
Yes. correct.
And got in Dallas at what time?
That it doesn't tell me.
Oh yeah, she said it don't tell you that.
Departure time.
So it got to Dallas and then it departed Dallas to SJB?
Yes.
At what time?
At 12:30 p.m. No, it's because she didn't make the flight.
Huh?
She didn't make the. It says she didn't make the return flight.
For Shanquella or Dejanay?
See, right here is where the guy on the phone who was answering the question got it wrong. He completely, guys, skipped over the fact that the blogger was asking what time did Dejanay depart from Dallas when she arrived in Dallas on October 28th. That the guy who was responding is referring to the fact that Dejanay didn't make her scheduled flight back. And we already know that because she pretty much changed her flight to another, pretty much. She didn't stay the whole trip. She changed her flight and got a whole different flight so she could fly back earlier. So that's the thing that frustrated me about this call. But at least for now, we have some details, guys, that at least Shanquella and Dejanay were on two different flights. Shanquella appears to have arrived in Cabo before at least Dejanay. We don't know about the others, but she arrived before Dejanay because she had an earlier flight. Her flight was at 5:30 a.m. on the 28th. She then arrives in Dallas, and then she flies from Dallas at 8:30 a.m. And it takes about 3 hours based upon the information I looked at here. We'll keep playing this video, but let me just focus on Shanquella right now because a lot of people had this question, so we can at least try to estimate that. Let's see. Where is it? So I said, how many hours does it take to fly from Texas to Cabo? And it looks like it's about 3 hours because this flight here, and this is just a generic flight. This flight, if they fly out at 8:25, then they would get there at 10:27. Shanquella flew out at 8:30 a.m. based upon what the individual said. So if she flew from Dallas at 8:30 a.m., that means you just estimate up, looking at, just pretend like I don't know what flight she was on. I don't know if she was on Americans or British, whatever she used, but I'm assuming she did American Airlines. It would have been 3 hours or 2 hours from then. So that's 9:30, 10. So she would have gotten there sometime after 10, probably 10:40, maybe 10:40, 10:32, because it looks like this one here, if you just estimate the way they have it here, if a person flies from Dallas at 8:25, they get to Cabo at 10:27. So if she departed based upon what he said at 8:30 from Dallas, then she would have got to Cabo, let's just estimate, at approximately 10:32 a.m. So we at least would know that she got there before the others, which would have given her an advantage. If she got to the villas before everyone else, she would have been able to pick her room first. We don't know if she paid for everything. That is, again, that's just speculation. There's been no actual concrete evidence about that yet. So I would say let's wait on that speculation. But I would say the fact that she got there, she had an advantage. She could have got the better room, which was the master bedroom. That could have caused some tension, which you know who. And we already have so much evidence showing that the CABO6 wasn't really friends with Shanquella. We'll go and look at some of that information a little bit more in detail today. But let's keep playing this. Based upon the individual who was looking up the flight information for Dejanay, she flew out at 8:30 a.m. on October 28th. So we would calculate it takes about 3 hours to get to Dallas. If we look at Shanquella's flights information, 6, 7, 8:30, then we can just estimate from 8:30 what it took her 3 hours to get to Dallas. Would have been 9:30, 10:30, 11:30 she would have got to Dallas. And that's kind of where we left off, because unfortunately, the guy who called did not clarify with the narrator or the individual on the phone to find out when Dejanay flew out, which was the frustrating part about it. But we can always estimate that just based upon the fact that she flew out from Raleigh at 8:30 a.m. So she was definitely after Shanquella's flight. She probably would have flew out at least 12:30 from Dallas. I don't know how long they take to let people do their flights. It just depends on how long the layover was or how long she was waiting. 11:30, 12:30. I would probably say about 12:30. So then if we estimate that, then she would have been in Cabo by probably 2:30 at the earliest. 2:30. So she would have been there later than Shanquella. So that's what I'm saying. That could have caused some tension with the girls because, again, Dejanay already was not friends with Shanquella. You could just tell they weren't. We'll look at some photos to show the evidence of that. But she already had issues given her own low insecurity and wanted to find and pick any kind of little fight with Shanquella. So that's what I'm thinking. Y'all let me know what y'all think in your theory, but let's keep playing this recording here.
Both.
It was booked on August 6th.
It was booked on August 6th,
2020. 2022.
2020.
Flight.
Huh?
She didn't make the. It says she didn't make the return flight.
For Shanquella or Dejanay?
Both.
It was booked on August 6th.
It was booked on August 6th,
2022.
2022. Yeah, looks like the same ticket.
You said
same flight.
Oh, they both was on the same flight.
So what he's highlighting here, again, this is showing evidence. He's highlighting here that Dejanay and Elise had the same flight. Based upon the information, he cut off some of the information, but here he is indicating Elise and Dejanay had same flight when he made the phone call. That's showing some cliquey behavior there. Because why is Shanquella going by herself, but we got the clique flying together? So Elise and Dejanay have the same flight. That means if we put them on the same flight, that means Elise's flight would have been at 8:30 a.m. with Dejanay, which would have gave her a significant amount of time to have been notified that her sister died. How you gonna go on a flight at 8:30 a.m. allegedly, and you know your sister has passed away? That's disgusting. Completely disgusting. I thought she would have flew out, several hours before, and then by the time she got on the flight, she may have got a phone call. No. According to the phone call that this blogger made to the airport, got the information, he has confirmed that Elise and Dejanay were on the same flight, which means that Elise flew out at 8:30. That's disgusting because she would have knew that her sister had passed away. I just find that just these women are just something about them are just very sinister, callous, and cold, in my personal opinion. Now, you heard the individual stay on the phone, too, that both did not make their flights back. He was indicating that Dejanay and Shanquella didn't make their separate flights back. They didn't fly in together or return together, but they didn't make their separate flights because we already found out the tragic incident with Shanquella passing away. But in addition, Dejanay and the other Cabo individuals changed their flights. So, of course, they didn't make it back with that flight. They had to change their flight to another time frame. So that's some information we got from this, but let's keep playing.
The first leg, yes, but then the second leg, they have different flights.
Oh, to get to Mexico, they had different flights.
Correct. It was booked on August 6th.
2022.
2022. Yeah, looks like the same ticket.
You said
same flight.
Oh, they both was on the same flight.
So Dejanay booked her flight August 6th, 2022. That's what he was saying there, if you can't see the letters. Now he's about to speak about and confirm the fact that Elise and Dejanay had the same exact flight. The only difference is that when they arrived in Dallas, then they had separate flights to Cabo. So they went on different flights when they arrived to Dallas. They flew in to Dallas, the same flight. Then when they arrived, they had different separate flights to Cabo.
The first leg, yes, but then the second leg, they have different flights.
Oh, to get to Mexico, they had different flights.
Correct.
Oh, so the number I just gave you, they left at 12:30, and this person left at 2:32.
Correct. Uh-huh.
But they pretty much got to Dallas at the same time.
Yeah, they got to Dallas at the same time. Correct.
So I think it's important to talk about the flight because also that sheds a little piece of evidence to show you the division already going on with that relationship. People might say, "Oh, that's extreme. People get different flights all the time." Okay, well, I get your stance on that. But we can look at their friendship, and it's very obvious that Shanquella was never in their clique. For example, going on Joya's Instagram. Now, Joya is the other clique person in the group. She is close with Dejanay, Elise, and Winter Donovan, and the other Cabo individuals, minus Shanquella. She may have went to school. As you can see, she went to the same school as Shanquella and was an alumni there, but they didn't roll or hang around with her. And I will show you evidence of that. So going on Joya's highlights here, we'll start with her highlights here. Let me see if you guys could see that. There's a photo here that I feel is very telling. And I'll stop it once I get there. This photo here, it's very telling. Very telling. This photo was taken 13 weeks ago. If you date back to 13 weeks ago was October 8th, 2022. And I know that because I did a look up of that date. That was before the CABO6 tragedy with those sick individuals. So if you do 13 weeks ago from today is Saturday, October 8th, 2022, before the Cabo trip. Okay, so we have that established. We know that. But notice who's missing from the photo. That's the problem I have. You have Joya here. Joya was supposed to attend the same trip as the CABO6 and Shanquella. She was supposed to be there. Luckily, she got lucky and didn't go. Okay. But these four girls are very tight. But notice something in very particular about the photo. Shanquella is not included. She's not their friend, guys. There's so much patterns of it. These four individual sisters, they're like sisters. They're very close. Very close. This picture shows them going out for brunch together. You got Joya, who didn't show up to the Cabo trip, Dejanay, Winter Donovan, and Elise Hyatt right here. But Shanquella is not included. Usually when these girls hang out, Shanquella somehow always is missing in the picture, which is very telling. Just because you go to school or you see somebody on campus doesn't mean they're your friend. And I think this was possibly, my theory is, this was possibly the first time Shanquella ended up going with him on a trip because of Khalil, because it was alleged by Tequila Long, who has done interviews. She has stated that Shanquella was invited by Khalil, not by Dejanay, not by Winter Donovan, and not by Elise Hyatt, and not by Joya. And Joya actually did a tribute on her Facebook for Shanquella a while back. And I thought it was kind of interesting because of the fact that I don't see any pictures of her at all with Shanquella. I thought that was interesting. She's like, "Oh, my friend passed away." And I'm like, how is someone your friend when you do a tribute to someone who's passed away, you'll put a photo up of that person memorializing them where you took pictures together in the past. That's not the case in this tragedy. She doesn't even have a picture of Shanquella with her. So how are they friends? Make it make sense. Let me see if I can find her page. I have to find her Facebook again. We did this before on another video, y'all. So We'll have to find it again if I can. But for now, let's look at her Instagram. And you can just look at her Instagram and you can see Shanquella is nowhere there. If that's your friend, why is she not there? But notice she's always very tight. They're all tight. You got all of them here, but no Shanquella. Joya, Dejanay, Winter Donovan, and Elise Hyatt. No Shanquella. Now let's move on to this trip here. 89 weeks ago, they went to a Cabo trip. And again, you'll notice a pattern. Look at the individuals in the photos. There will be one person that's always missing. It's very telltale that Shanquella was never their friend. Even, and that's what I'm saying, you just put the little pieces together. It may sound like, oh, they didn't fly out together. That doesn't mean anything. But just start looking at photos and who they hang out with on a daily basis, and you'll notice a pattern. So let's look at these photos here. Here we have Elise Hyatt, Joya, Dejanay. Notice who here is in these photos. And you've seen this picture a lot. This picture floating around a lot. Look who's missing. Shanquella. We got Joya, Elise, Winter, and Donovan. I mean, Dejanay. Sorry, why did I say Donovan? Dejanay. Never Shanquella. That's a huge red flag that she's clearly not their friend. They went on this is the trip they went to, Cancun together. They just went to a Cancun trip about 89 weeks ago, but Shanquella's not on this trip because they didn't roll with her like that. We got Winter, Elise, Joya, Dejanay, no Shanquella. Still at this Cancun trip, you can see the bond, but not even just the trip. You see how they went to brunch together just 13 weeks ago in October. No Shanquella. Now on this Cancun trip, again, no Shanquella. Period. My friends. Well, let's go back to that one. Oh, we can't go back. Let's see if we can go. Having the best time of their life, and there's no Shanquella. That is just telltale. You got Dejanay over here acting a fool. At this point, I'm running off of Tequila. Sorry, I said Tequila. Tequila. Just living their best life. There's Winter Donovan. And you do not see Shanquella. Shanquella didn't go on this trip. She didn't go to brunch with them. She's nowhere near out with these girls ever. There's Joya. I bet Joya's glad she didn't go to that Cabo trip. I'm just saying, y'all. Still living their best life in Cabo. But again, Shanquella doesn't go on these trips with them. That's why I'm suspecting that may have been the first time she went on a trip with these girls, because Khalil was the one that invited her. And then just imagine Shanquella is the first one to arrive to the villa. You know, usually when you arrive to the villa, you get first dibs, first shots on picking the room, whatever. Do what you do. Probably had Dejanay and feeling her own salty way because she probably already didn't like Shanquella for whatever insecurity reason she had. And again, see this bond with these girls. Very close bond that they have. And Joya is included. But I just found it was quite interesting that Joya did this tribute for Shanquella, but I don't see pictures on her profile at all of Shanquella, period. So what I suspect is Shanquella was an acquaintance to these girls, possibly, see her around school because she met them through Khalil. Again, look at the bond that they have. Like, they're like sisters. They do everything together. You could just see the closeness between these girls, and you will notice the stark contrast on this trip where they are always still clustered together, even on the Cabo trip with Shanquella, but Shanquella is never included in the conversations. even on the Cabo trip. But you could just see how they're interacting with each other. That is a friendship. Not even just a friendship, but a bond. And we've seen pictures of them together as children. So they've known each other even as children before college. And Shanquella was not anywhere near them when they were kids. The bond was between the CABO6, and it didn't include Shanquella, even in childhood. Shanquella came in the picture in college when she met Khalil. So I believe she was introduced to these other girls through Khalil. Because here, see, Winter Donovan, they live in their best life, and there's no Shanquella. She wasn't invited. So it's just sad that there is a false narrative saying that these girls were their friend, when in reality, I don't suspect they ever were. And I can't put the sound on for y'all because, unfortunately, y'all know how the copyright stuff goes. So can't do that. But you could just see, obviously, here they're living their best life. And you don't see Shanquella. Shanquella wasn't invited. Why wasn't Shanquella invited on this trip if they were such friends? Where is she? Where was she at that brunch we just saw? So that just goes to show, and even looking at some of the other pictures on here, but I thought this was quite interesting. We kind of looked at some of those pictures before, but what I thought was interesting is when we saw this additional picture here, not this one, guys, but let me see if I can get back to it. This additional picture here where they go to brunch together without Shanquella. It's just very telltale to me that I find that to be quite suspicious, to show that there was really no connection with these girls in that way. It was just where she met them at school. And who knows, Dejanay might have had an underlying jealousy towards Shanquella, because they're used to having this bond with these four girls and the two guys, or three guys, Khalil, Nazir, and Malik. And now all of a sudden there's this new girl coming in the group. They're used to, it's just the four girls that are always together. They got Elise, Winter Donovan, Dejanay, and this young lady here, Joya. They're always together, including Nazir, Khalil, and Malik. So all of a sudden now, Khalil introduces them to this new girl. And when they get to college, because they've known each other since they were kids back in 2012, I've shown a photo of that before on other videos. Y'all have to keep up with me and watch the other video where there was a photo of them all together, the CABO6, with minus Shanquella back in 2012. Yes, 2012. So, and Shanquella again wasn't there. So imagine they have had this bond since they were kids, and they're used to just being the four girls in this crew. And all of a sudden they get to college, and now Khalil wants to disrupt this bond and introduce them to this new girl who has it going on. Okay, she got fly hair, fly outfit, fly everything. I mean, winning in life. She's got her own two businesses thriving. It was an automatic intimidation for someone like Dejanay, who had insecurities in herself already before she even got to a Cabo trip. Okay, or before she even met Shanquella at college. She already had insecurities in her. So when she met Shanquella, those insecurities came to the surface, and she already had, I think, an insecurity or felt threatened by the beauty, the success, the confidence, the light that Shanquella had, even before they got to the Cabo trip. And Khalil invited, in their mind, an outsider to this trip that hasn't gone on other trips with them in the past. And they're like, well, why are you bringing this girl? Whatever. But usually in these type of scenarios, the more the merrier, because they can help pay for the villa, pay for the other expenses. It divides up the expenses for the trip. So it's really making sense to me. And then just seeing the fact that they took separate flights. Now, we didn't get to hear about Nazir's. Well, we did hear Nazir's. We talked about Nazir's flight before, but we don't know the details about Khalil's flight or what's the other young lady's name, guys? I forget. Okay, we do know Elise's flight. Elise went with Dejanay. We don't know Winter Donovan's flight. Sorry, we don't know Winter Donovan's flight. But we at least have information that Elise and Dejanay had the same flight. We'll have to keep looking to find out what Winter Donovan's flight information was. But I'm assuming they probably all had the same flight, y'all. I'm just assuming. But we'll have to look more into it to see. But that's just another thread of information to show that these girls had a clique that didn't include Shanquella. Shanquella was an outsider in their opinion, and they were the mean girls. Now, even look at the demeanor. Look at their facial expressions in this photo, guys. This is before the trip. Notice the mean girl attitude. Joya, she's smiling. She seems full of life, happy. Notice the ugly frown on Dejanay's face, Winter Donovan's face, and Elise's face. They all have very sinister, evil looks. They give me the vibe of the mean girls that you see in school and other scenarios and environments that kind of all are cliquey and bond together, but they're the mean girls in the crowd or in the group. That's the vibe I get from these girls. Look at their mean, sinister look. And this is before the Cabo trip. This was 13 weeks ago, remind you. So that was October 8th. Before, you can see right here where it says it was posted. Oh, sorry, this is 12 weeks ago. Sorry, guys, I got that wrong. 12 weeks ago. But 12 weeks ago would have been, let's see, I'll look up 12 weeks ago. I put 13. Let's look up 12 weeks ago. 12 weeks ago from today would have been Monday, October 17th. And I will show you that so you can see evidence of that, but y'all can look this stuff up yourself. What is 12 weeks ago from today? Monday, October 17th, 2022. So that was even before the trip even happened, right? So these girls still have the mean girl aura about them. I think the reason why they bond so much together, I don't even know how Joya fits in this because she looked like she's a sweet one in the group. But she may have another sinister side to her too. You know, we don't know her that well, just saying. But even before they even get on the trip, look at their facial expressions. You can read a facial expression and tell the aura you're getting. I'm getting mean girl vibes from these girls. And we already heard rumors about Winter Donovan pulling some girl's wig off in school, allegedly. We don't know if that's true, but some girl alleged that. And even looking at Elise's face, just the mean girl attitude. What's up with this look? I don't know if they're trying to look hot for the camera, but that doesn't give me hot. It gives me mean girl, just stank attitude. You're supposed to be at a brunch, coming back from a brunch with your friends, and you over here with a stank face. The only person that lit up this picture was Joya. And again, we don't know too much about Joya, but you know, it's giving me that mean girl vibe from these girls. Sick mean girl vibes. But I don't know. You guys be the judge. You let me know what you think about these girls. And I didn't even finish showing you all the pictures. These girls, I'm telling you, that the vibe I get from them is kind of mean girl vibe and a sisterhood that they had that Shanquella was not included in. Dating back to their childhood, because we have photos of that. You got to go watch all my old videos on it, guys. Watch my other videos on it. But dating back to their childhood, that did not include Shanquella. So we have to put that into the equation, and we have to really understand the fact that they did not like Shanquella. And they felt like she was an outcast, and they felt like she was not supposed to be on that trip with them. And they already had a stink attitude. And the evidence is in the pudding. Look, okay, you got to look at how they are in this video versus I'm going to show you a contrasting video of how they are with Shanquella. When they're on the trip with Shanquella, they're all isolated in one room where Shanquella is never included. Shanquella is always isolated. They're in one room together. Then Shanquella goes skinny dipping by herself. Then Shanquella's seen eating at the taco bar dinner, next, all at the very end of the table, away from the girls. The body language is there. It's very loud and very clear. Their demeanor here in this Cancun trip shows they're all interacting with each other. They're all in sync. They're all in unison with that sisterhood bond that the pattern they seem to have in all these photos and videos. But then when you see Shanquella enter the picture for the Cabo trip, it's a whole different vibe. See, look, they're happy and they're smiling. Notice the difference in this too. They're smiling. They're happy. They're enjoying it. They're like you're supposed to do on a Cabo trip or a Cancun trip. Cancun trip, you're laughing, you're smiling, you're drinking, you're living up the life. Now, I want you to compare. Before we look at this one more time, I'm gonna play the videos again this time. I'm gonna play the videos next of when Shanquella is on the Cabo trip with them, and then now look at their demeanors on that trip. You'll notice that they're not smiling. They're very quiet. They're to themselves. They're secluded, and they're all in this little group together. They don't look like they're having fun at all. They look miserable. Here in this Cancun trip, when they're with the sisters, they're all laughing and smiling, and they're together, and they're having this experience with one another and drinking and in unison. And look at they're close to, even next to each other, just enjoying their best life. Like they want to be there with each other. Okay. Now we're going to take a look. We're just going to look at this one more time because I want you to just look at their demeanor, study their facial expressions, see how they're together. Now we're going to contrast this demeanor at this trip We're going to contrast that with how they are interacting with Shanquella on the Cabo trip. And you'll notice a stark difference. They're not having fun with Shanquella. They're not laughing and smiling. They're isolated in a room. Even you would think at the dinner table, they'd have some fun. No, they don't even, they're swimming together here. Notice another thing. They're swimming together in these pools and stuff. How come when they go on the Cabo trip, they don't want to go swimming with Shanquella? Shanquella has to go skinny dipping by herself. Huge red flag that this was burning this anger that Dejanay had with her low self-esteem self had burning that whole night before the tragedy happened on the 29th. See, they're just enjoying and having fun. Now, since we've already looked at this video, see, look, they're going swimming. They want to go swimming with each other and have these videos, right? Well, let's revisit. We're going to revisit because I want you now to compare that interaction, how you've seen that they were having fun with each other, laughing, loving all the moments together. Now we're going to watch the videos we watched before, now with Shanquella in the picture at these trips. I'm going to play this again with sound. So let me go ahead and mute myself.
When I went to Global, hey, play around, I had a bro.
First red flag. Why is Shanquella swimming by herself? Skinny dipping by myself was a ball. Why is she have to swim by herself? We saw on the Cancun trip, all the girls were swimming and have fun together. But why in this picture on the Cabo trip, we see only Shanquella? That's a huge red flag right there. She was an outsider. She wasn't, included in that group. And they didn't even want to let her into their group, in my opinion. Stark difference. Why? Again, red flag. Cancun trip, they're all swimming together. We just saw that. Cabo trip, Shanquella's swimming by herself. Red flag. First red flag to show they didn't want to be around her. They had tension already brewing on the 28th. We'll keep playing.
We got out. Everybody.
Second red flag. When we saw Cancun trip, the girls were inseparable. They were taking all these pictures in different places and sceneries. Second versus the Cabo trip. Shanquella, again, a second video where Shanquella is by herself, sleeping. I get people say, "Oh, people have long trips; they're tired." No, I don't. I don't buy that. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. If you're just coming, she got there based upon her flight information. She would have got to the villa pretty early. We can estimate at least, I would say, because she got to Dallas at 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30. We can estimate 11:30. She gets to Cabo, and then it takes her at least what 2 hours. We'll just give her 2 hours to get to her villa. So that'd be 12:30, 1:30. Let's say she got there at 1:30 and nobody's there yet. She could have unpacked, took a quick nap then until they arrived. So I don't buy that whole "I'm tired, I had a long flight." That's all hogwash, because she could have slept before they even got there, because it appears as though they had later flights. We don't know Khalil's flight information yet, but at least we know that Dejanay wasn't there yet and Elise wasn't there yet. We still got to figure out Winter's flight information. But with that being said, she would have had time to sleep a couple hours before the party really started. So she would have been freshened up. I think she slept at this. I really believe, this is what I'm thinking, is that they were continually isolating this girl and rejecting this girl because they didn't want her in their little clique, this long-term clique that has been established since childhood, where Shanquella wasn't in a part of that. And so Shanquella was emotionally exhausted, I feel, for being repeatedly rejected and feeling like an outcast, and she just went to sleep, just to kill time. That's what I think. That's my opinion. But this is another red flag, because you notice a stark difference from that Cancun trip, where those girls were inseparable. You could see that they were literally sisters. Every video we saw, they were having fun. They were smiling. They were energetic. They were in the pools together. They were stopping, taking pictures. Like it looked like they had gone hiking or somewhere, and they did all these different sceneries. But here, why is Shanquella always by herself, skinny dipping by herself, sleeping by herself? Second red flag we see here. Stark difference from Cancun.
Buddy. She too slow.
Another red flag. Here, you notice the dead calmness in that room. You don't see the laughing. You don't see the excitement in the room. The three girls are all on one side of the table by themselves. They're not interacting with Shanquella. Completely contrary to what we saw on the Cancun trip, when literally those four girls were inseparable. Stark contrast when you start comparing their interactions with other experiences where they've gone on trips. Mind you, without Shanquella, you can see the stark differences in these videos. It's like they don't want anything to do with Shanquella. And it was like they were in unison, because even Khalil knew what was going on, because he was even looking at the Cabo individuals and trying to read their energy. He wasn't even really paying Shanquella any mind either. Nobody was, because like I said, they have a bond that has been established from years, dating back to even before college.
It's just us in this big ass house. That's crazy.
And another red flag I noticed about this is when Shanquella's recording, again, they're not even looking at her camera. They're not engaging with her, smiling, laughing. Whereas on the Cancun trip, when it were with the four girls, they actually looked at the camera. They were laughing. They were toasting. They were twerking. They were, all together, jumping in the pool together. But with Shanquella, it's like nobody even giving her any love, period. And I know she felt that energy. I know she felt very uncomfortable during those different experiences, in my opinion. Just very, very eerie, stark contrast to what we saw on the Cancun trip.
To it. Fuck those who don't do it how we do it because we used to it. Drink motherfucking
Drink.
Even when they toast, guys, the toast is very dry. You don't see one smile, period, not from any of the girls. They look like they're miserable, like they don't want to be there because they're irritated by Shanquella, because she's an outsider in their opinion, and they have a little stank attitude, whatever insecurities they're dealing with. And like I said, it's really centered around Dejanay and her insecurities. But they're going to follow anything that Dejanay says because they're a clique. And whatever she says goes. But notice the toast is so dry. It's like when we saw, let's go back to Cancun, guys. Let's go back to Cancun because we got to go back and compare. Let's compare. When we saw Cancun trip, it was a whole different vibe. All of a sudden, look, they just swimming together. They love the pool. Remember when Shanquella came in to look for them and she said, it don't take that long to get naked. They had a whole bunch of excuses for why they didn't want to get in the pool. Dejanay talking about she don't got the right swimsuit, but they seem like they love the pool here at this Cancun trip when it's really all the girls that want to be together. Even seeing the bond is so close that you could even see the body language, how they take pictures close together. They're a unit. I mean, they look like they're having a blast on this trip, but then when you see the Cabo trip, it looked like a complete funeral over there. It's so awkward. You just watching it is awkward. But look at Cancun. This is how it should be. Okay, this is how Cabo should have been. Where the girls are actually together. Look, together, enjoying each other. They're taking pictures with one another. They're engaging with one another. They're smiling. They're very vibrant. It's a stark contrast. It's almost very eerie now when you compare their demeanor here and you look at Cabo, and it's like, oh my God, what was really going on? Were they planning a funeral or something? That's how it looked. That's how it looks, guys. All you have to look at is see who people spend their time with. And that's how you can determine whether someone really interacts or likes someone versus whether they're just an associate or an acquaintance. And just looking at these videos, you can see they don't have a connection with Shanquella. It was Khalil. And again, Khalil knew better because he knew Dejanay didn't like Shanquella from the get-go. He was playing both sides, in my opinion. He is a double-minded individual that was playing both sides, that was talking mess about Shanquella to these girls and then talking about the girls to Shanquella, because Shanquella probably was like saying, why these girls not really want to interact with me? What's going on? The vibe is off. Something's not right. And Khalil probably was like, don't worry about it. They just hating. Don't pay them any mind. I'm here for you. I got your back. I have your support. So Shanquella tried to make the best of it. But when we go back to the video here, just look, keep looking. Vibe is completely off. Completely off.
It's just us in this big ass house. That's crazy.
down to it. Fuck those who don't do it how we do it because we used to it. Drink motherfucking
Drink.
So eerie, guys. So eerie. It's like they're not even having fun. versus how we saw them on the Cancun trip. It's very obvious. If you can't see that with the compare and contrast that we just did, I don't know what to tell you. You could see it's so obvious that it looked like they were having a miserable time because they were bothered by Shanquella because of their own insecurities. And I really think it was the root cause was Dejanay's jealous self. Okay, jealous self. We already know she was hating. And we already know that other video where she's walking through the villa by herself. Let me see, Shanquella. And again, they're all huddled up in a room without Shanquella. Like they're talking about her. I feel like they were talking about her. And they didn't even want to go swim with her. They were making up excuses, but it looked like they liked the pool in Cancun. So these are other little pieces of information here that we're getting, y'all. Not getting, but looking at and assessing and reassessing to really determine and show and shed light on the fact that these girls they give me the vibe of mean girl attitude, where they just had this dirty attitude towards Shanquella that they weren't going to let her intermeddle in their friendship and their bond. It was like this outsider coming in that they didn't want to be a part of it. And Shanquella tried to interact with these girls. She tried to have fun with them. She tried to laugh with them. She tried to make jokes. And every time she did make these jokes and laugh with them, even during the game when she was just making fun of, Dejanay didn't take too well to that. She was always getting offended, like who she thinks she is. Trying to make jokes with us. She don't know us like that. She ain't cool with us like that. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from Dejanay, and they're venting and talking mess, because it makes sense to me that this was something that was brewing over time, because when Dejanay ends up attacking Shanquella, unfortunately, she states, "I'm tired of your SHIT." So that tells us, and that clues us in, guys, that this is something that has been brewing over time. Let me see if I can find that. Shanquella Robinson. And then seeing that picture where she is, unfortunately, not even included during the time when they're going to these brunches and all these things, that is a clue evidence. I don't know how they say they're just friends how come Shanquella's not included? Very, very eerie. So y'all let me know what y'all think about this information. Do you think they were really friends? I don't think so, y'all. I don't. And let me know what y'all think. All right. Take care, y'all.